Hey, podcast listening people, welcome to another fantastic, exciting, thrilling episode of the B2B Mentors podcast. And of course, today I have a guest for you, but do me a quick favor before I pull her up here. Make sure you share this. Make sure, if not only for you, guarantee you there's someone else in your network who's going to get great value out of this information, and it's free to you. So all I ask in exchange, please share with your friends, your colleagues. I'm here to bring you the top marketing leaders, experts in the B2B world, as well as what I would consider business celebrities and my favorite real practitioners, those who have actually gone through and done it. They don't just talk about it, they have executed what it is that makes us as B2B marketers successful. And, without further ado, I have a very special guest for you today. She is a legend in the marketing world. And I have, of course, Karrie Sanderson. Welcome. Good to see you. It is her birthday month, so make sure you say happy birthday to her, no matter when this is coming out, either way, because everyone likes to feel special on their birthday month anyways. And a little bit of background before we dive in here, folks. Karrie is an executive marketing leader with deep expertise in go-to-market strategy, brand development, growth, communications, creative studio leadership, and leading high-performance teams and building strong cross-functional partnerships. And of course, she's been in some major brands in marketing leadership roles, everywhere from Typeform to Smartsheet, which I love, by the way. We use Smartsheet internally, Pfizer, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, and you've also been in the agency world, which I think I cut some of your bio out when I accidentally copy and pasted it. So that was pretty good impromptu. What would you say?
Yeah. Hi, Connor. First of all, thank you so much, and appreciate you bringing me on and adding my perspective to your incredible roster of guests. So very much appreciated. Thank you.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a needed go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Needed perspective. Nobody creates success in a vacuum. And for folks listening to this, it's like, who better to learn from your peers, mentors that have gone through and made the mistakes, made the successes, made the wins that you can learn and acquire that from. And I imagine you've probably had some mentors in your life over the years as well. Was there anyone in particular that got you into the marketing world, drove you into the marketing world, or was there something else earlier on that led you to where you're at today?
Yeah, I'd say there's two people. I'm an engineer by education, so I grew up, when women in engineering was not a big deal. It was like not a very prevalent thing that was going on. And I had a high school guidance counselor. I was going to be a journalist, kind of marketing adjacent, PR type thing. And when I told him I wanted to go to college, what I wanted to study, he's like, "Oh, that's great. That's perfect. For a young woman. If you were a young man, I would steer you into engineering." And a little bit about my personality. All you need to do is tell me I can't do something, and then I'll go show you I can do it. So 8 years later, I had a master's degree in chemical engineering, which was fine, but I didn't really want to do that. So the company that I was working at the time had an executive training program, and I raised my hand for it, and kind of taking junior people. And my first rotation was in marketing, and there was a gentleman named Sven Riesum, and he headed up. This is back the Brawny paper towels, Dixie cups and plates, and I said, "Oh, this is my jam. These are my people. This is the kind of work I like to do. Getting close to the customer, deciding long-term things." And I asked if I could stay, and he said absolutely, and mentored me through and kind of got me up to speed on what that foundational marketing was. And I haven't looked back. So my engineering background serves me really well. I'm definitely an analytical systems third, fourth order thinker about what's going to happen next. And I think that serves me well as a marketer. But, you meet a lot of marketers who are engineers. I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us out there.
For sure. Yeah. It's a dangerous combination. Someone who can understand the bigger picture of business, but also has that engineering mind. You have like that good balance between the left brain and the right brain. And it certainly, I'm sure, served you. Is there anything specific? Like, if you can look at how other marketers kind of do what they do versus you in marketing leadership positions, how has having that engineer background applied into CMO, marketing leadership for some of these B2B roles?
Yeah, I think And you and I talked about this as we were getting to know each other before the call. Um, everything I do is very grounded in insights, and I think that's a discipline that you don't have to be an engineer to practice that yourself. If you ground, what you're doing in insights, whether that's customer insights, problem, it's kind of the first step in engineering is like define the problem, and so the more you know about your customers, the more you know about the market, the more you know about competitors, it's just going to make you come up with a better solution or approach or roadmap to how you're going to actually find your place in that market, really talk to those customers in the right way, really position yourself versus the competition in an effective way. And I think that a lot of marketers know that. It seems obvious. The hardest part is you can do it at the beginning, but then as you get busy doing the work and you are putting things out in the market, and you have the continuous nature of understanding the problem. It's not a one and done. And so that's something that I learned really early on and has helped make me successful, is that I'm constantly checking myself, not just with my peers or the team that works for me. What do the customers actually think, or the potential customers? And then especially the ones who aren't happy with what you're doing, the ones who don't respond. You get more information out of your biggest critics sometimes than you do your biggest fans. So problems.
Because if they love you, they're not going to say anything. If they hate you, they're going to shout it to the entire world, why they have complaints.
Yeah, exactly. So things like customer advisory boards, customer panels, product advisory boards, product teams will always have an advisory board, but you should have one for marketing as well. And find those customers who want to talk about the value of it, not necessarily the functionality and features, but why they love it, why they hate it, what are the things, why did they choose you, why didn't they choose you? Bringing those folks in along the way, show them your marketing plans, show your marketing materials, let them help give you feedback. You don't always have to listen, but it'll give you some good insight into what you're doing right and where you can do things better. And don't be afraid of it.
I love that. Did you say a customer advisory board? In
Yeah,
essence, like
yes,
I've
yep,
never heard
customer.
that before, coming from another marketer. Believe it or not, talk about that a little bit more in depth. I think that's actually pretty key and pretty interesting point.
Yeah, it's basically, finding out some of your super fans. You can always find those people usually in your community if you have an online community, or depending upon who your business is, if you've got, whether you're speaking to IT or you're speaking to a technical audience, or you're speaking to, if you're selling MarTech, whoever you are, like there's usually pretty easy ways. You can either do a call for it on your social channels. The people who love you are easy to find. Bring them together. They love to talk, especially the ones who love you, love to talk about everything they love about the product, and they learn from each other. Oh, I didn't know you could do that, and just hearing, watching, observing, listening to the interaction, the language they use, the things they key in on. There's so much signal there on what you can leverage, or if there's something about your product that you're offering that is really important to these B2B buyers, and they're not keying in on it, you're like, oh, I might need to push up that messaging somewhere. Then the folks who didn't choose you, there's other ways to do that. You can either, hire a focus group panel or somebody to find them for you, or you can find them on your website if you're willing to put some kind of a tool on your site that says, hey, before you go, would you be interested in telling us, why we didn't have your business today, or something like that. And then customers who leave, of course, if you have a sales team, you can always look at your closed, lost, or non-renewal deals and talk to those folks. Find out, why did they not renew? Who did they choose instead, and why? Because that'll help you also learn, maybe some of it's not marketing related, it could be product related, but it's a different signal that they can look at. And you can also, learn from them, what language are they using, where did you not communicate your value properly, or where did you overpromise and underdeliver? So there's a lot of signal, and you should do that throughout. Again, not just at the beginning when you're doing your plans. Check them all along.
Yeah, it surprises me how many marketers I come across, and they kind of forget about the customer, and it's kind of a line, it's a straight line versus a circle in the relationship, with the customer, and they're out there thinking they're talking about things that are important when it'll surprise you when you actually sit in on your team's sales calls and do sit-ins or drive. I almost said drive-bys, but that's not the right term. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
those gong calls or whatever tool your company may use are gold. I mean, it's gold, right? You
but
should
but
really
in your
listen into those.
case,
Yeah.
actually creating kind of like again, and then on the other side of that is, well, I'm going to send out surveys to my customers, which is great. There's huge insight in that, but getting more. I love how you position that advisory board with your customers, and
Yeah.
I'm sure even if marketers did that, they're not in sales. Customers would be so thrilled, like they would refer you. They'd have such a great experience. Wow, this company actually listens to me. They're willing to, provide feedback, connect me with their other customers, and so on and so forth. I want to take a small step back because for a lot of marketers that do listen to the show, some of them may be coming out of college, looking to level up their career, and you've been able to get your foot in the door with some very well-known brands. I personally know a lot of other, CMOs, former CMOs, marketing directors that really, really want that on their resume to say that they've accomplished that. What's been your secret to getting your foot in with these legacy? I don't know if legacy is the right word, but brands and creating success out of being in a position in those companies.
Yeah, so getting into the companies, again, that's always somewhat serendipitous, but also takes a lot of, just persistence and so getting hired at someplace like a Coca-Cola or a Starbucks, or, if you're in healthcare, Pfizer was a great experience for me, is your network, right? And don't be afraid to um, lean into people look to see, even if it's a friend of your parents or your aunt's, bestie's husband or wife or whatever. People want to help. Fundamentally they do, um, and don't just be curious and show genuine interest in why you were interested in that company. It can't just be because Coca-Cola will look good on my resume, right? There's got to be something about it that would what's your passion for it? What's your personal story behind why you're interested in that brand? I think would be helpful. When you get into these kind of companies, there's a lot of competition for the promotions, the attention, the I guess progression of your career. Look for those unique opportunities that some people might be afraid to jump in on. I've given a speech before about the power of saying yes, and it is something that has been a common thread in my career. Is if there's something like I said yes to grad school. I went to grad school in Atlanta. I'd never been to Georgia Tech before. I'd never been to Atlanta before. I'm like, sure, I'll go. It's a great program. When I was with the first company I ever worked for, James River Company, they're not actually around anymore, but they make Dixie cups and plates and brownie paper towels. I was living in Norwalk, Connecticut, and they said, hey, we're forming a team in California where we're going to put all these cross-functional people together right next to the customer, kind of a model that P&G also was doing. Who's in? And I looked around the room. I'm like, I'll move to San Francisco. Never been there. Didn't know what I was signing up for. So especially when you're in your career, even if you try something like that and it doesn't work out, you're seen in two dimensions. Number one, that you're willing to lead and take on something that's important to the company. They're trying. You're going to have an impact and learn with those other around. You're going to build these relationships. And even if it doesn't work out, you've learned something, you've grown. You may be like, yeah, I tried that, didn't work. So sign up for the hard things, raise your hand, do the extra work, do the extra, there's a lot of diversions that I took along the way to get to this point, but they all add up to the knowledge that makes me better as a leader of marketers.
Say yes more and don't be afraid to put in the hard work. I think, and this isn't just I believe, because I've seen it in all generations, not just a millennial, it's not a Gen Z, is
Yeah.
I feel like a lot more employees are very resistant to, like, if it's not my way, it's the highway. I only demand to stay at home. You want me to come in the office? You want me to move? Like, and I've heard this from a number of other, businesses are all struggling with this right now. What's your
Mhm.
perspective on that? And thoughts, because you've led teams as well. Like, is this
Mhm.
happening more? Is this kind of just a phase right now? And what would you encourage people who maybe kind of have that mindset?
Well, I think it's twofold, right? So employers need to be realistic about what decisions that they make about what kind of work environment they're going to have, and then what that may either open up in terms of the talent market and what they may block out in terms of the talent market. And that's a decision that an employer is going to make based on what they know about their business and what their business needs are. And then from a talent perspective, I would encourage people to, everybody has a different personal situation, whether or not it's, I need to be home, based on, my husband's travel schedule, my wife's travel schedule, or that may look like. But that realize that whatever those decisions or those changes that you make, or those sacrifices, or those things that you decide to go do, whether it's I'm going to go to the office or I'm only remote, they're temporary. I think on the employer side, if there's a job that you really love and there's only one thing about it that you're like, no, not so sure, give it a try. And it doesn't work out, then either prove a ton of value so that you can say, hey, I'm so great at this. Can I just have this exception or whatever? Like and then if it doesn't work out, you can move. And that is one thing that has changed significantly over the course of my career. When I first started out, if you were not at a job for at least 5 years, probably more like 7 or 10, you were considered a job hopper. So you weren't even allowed even small things on your resume. Nowadays, 18 months, 2 years, like that's super common. People know how to get in, add value, and then move on to the next thing. And it's, so again, that thing of it's temporary, whatever situation you may find yourself in, or if this isn't exactly what I want, there's sacrifices you have to make along the way. Sometimes you have to go live somewhere you didn't really want to get your foot in the door. A lot of folks that want to work for companies like Procter and Gamble or something, you're going to do a stint in Bentonville, Arkansas, not that that's a bad place. I've never been, but there's places you're going to have to probably go.
Have you ever been to Flippin, Arkansas?
No.
Believe it or not, there's a Flippin, Arkansas. They have a Flippin Walmart, a Flippin Bank, Flippin Rivers, and Flippin,
nice.
No joke. I've actually been there before.
Yeah. But when you go and you do those things, it just provides you with some perspective, some patience, some, and who knows, maybe you'll go and you'll fall in love with it. It's not, so the original question was like, what advice would you give people? Things are temporary. View it as a learning experience for yourself that will add up to either learning like, oh, this is something I'm really good at and love, or nope, I take that off my list. This is where I want to push my career trajectory, or companies I want to work for. I think employees have a little bit more flexibility. Employers, they have to think about it probably a little bit longer term. It's really a trade-off. I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's a personal choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a shift, right? Like, I'm in business with my dad. He's been in the same industry for over 20 plus years, and there's certainly a shift. And it's just, I came from doing dishes at 13. Like, I was working really hard really early on, and it's not that difficult to kind of do that extra proving value. Like, I like the way you said that, and then approach to get the things that you want and need. And chances are, the CMO or whoever your boss, CEO, they're going to be willing to provide that because you've proved value. But everyone kind of seems to want it in the reverse now. They want their cake and eat it too. And then if you supply these things to me, then I'll prove the value. So I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but it's kind of interesting. Well, you've led a lot of teams. So I think
it's interesting though too, because my last role as a chief marketing officer at Typeform, they're based in Barcelona, and I've worked for companies that have international divisions before, obviously huge companies, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, et cetera, but they're headquartered there. And one of the things that I loved about my time there was this balance. In the US, we have such a hustle culture and time put in, and I'm the first one in, I'm the last one. I work the weekends, my email's always on. That's not the case there. And they're still very successful. They have a very healthy understanding of work-life balance. When they're at work, they work really hard. But it was a nice shift. I wasn't getting any emails on the weekends, and we still, had a good impact. So I think
I might have misheard you, but was it Barcelona that you said?
Barcelona, yeah.
Barcelona, yeah. I lived in Barcelona for summer, so
Yeah, it's
I
beautiful. But I
definitely,
think there's
it's a hard to resist lifestyle compared to what our, what we do now, and just a crazy
yeah,
hustle and grind on,
yeah.
the day to day. But
I mean, I think the reality is that there's a shift on both ends, right? We need the workforce, if you're an employee, to understand that, and ultimately it's a business, right? And so
mm,
you definitely um, are there to add value and grow the business or maintain the business, whatever your job is. And businesses need to understand that people are looking at, and I think this is good, of compartmentalizing, I don't know if that's the right word, but of having clear
I make
boundaries.
up words all the time. You're fine.
Yeah,
Just
I think it's a word I
whatever you
should
want to
say,
come up
right?
with.
Yeah. Having clear boundaries between, like, my work is really important. I'm going to give it all when I'm there, but when I'm not at work, I'm here. And I did not grow up that way. Like, my work was, you know, it was the number one thing. And, there were sacrifices I made for that. But I think you can do both. I think you can do both.
So you've currently, and you've done some advisory right now. You're advisor, Change Engine, Techstars, Gated. What are you seeing across the board for? And I imagine these companies, I haven't dug into them too much. They also sell B2B. I would envision. What are you seeing are the biggest challenges, roadblocks? Hold on one second, Katie. Are they coming to change the light here? Can they come back in like 15 minutes? They're gonna fix the other two. So they're gonna fix the other two. 20? 20 minutes would be better. Okay. I'll still be on calls for the next hour or 2 hours. Sorry about that. Julius, listening, just cut that. I'm so sorry, Karrie.
Oh, no,
Okay.
it's fine. It's fine.
My
Yeah.
ADD can't stand anyone else walking in the room to do, and I've been
Well,
waiting on this
I've got the
light.
dog in the backyard. I'm like, here's the phone, be quiet, because he'll be like, where are you, mama? Shh, scratching on the door. So it's the
100%.
reality of the being apart. Yeah, I think so. Both Gated and Change Engine are B2B SaaS or startup, and it's more like go to market, on-call advisory, and then kind of advisory meetings. And then Techstars is actually based in Seattle, and they're the one I am working with is the Seattle cohort, and help advise startups as they go through. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And so my question is, what are you seeing from a high level picture, the biggest marketing challenges that those companies are having now, especially maybe even in recent months, this year? Has anything really dramatically changed? People are saying it has. Some people are saying not at all. Everything's perfect. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think it depends upon what stage you're in. I'll speak a little bit broader than just those companies. About a year ago, I think a lot of folks in the technology space definitely experienced a shift in terms of buying behaviors. That wonderful run of 2020 through 2021, 22-ish, it's kind of slowed very quickly and had its impacts. I think it depends upon the stage. So if you are, just getting started, just looking at your product market fit, trying to figure out your messaging, your branding, all that kind of stuff, it's a small enough microcosm. You can find your key customers and probably keep moving along your path. If you're at that point where you've mostly kind of, hey, I got my core base, and I'm trying to cross the chasm, not to old throwback there, then it's a lot harder right now. And there's a couple of reasons why. Some of them are market factors, right? A lot of businesses are a little more cautious about buying, especially if you're selling in an enterprise. SMBs are, every dollar counts with inflation and everything, and they're trying to figure out, like, do I want to spend the extra $20 a month on this software or not, right? So the market conditions are really challenging externally. Internally, I belong to quite a few different marketing communities, a CMO community, some others. The impact of AI has really still, I think people are scratching the surface about what's possible, um, and how they want to incorporate it into their, planning, their writing, their customer interactions, the insights they get back. So that internal, how do I use this amazing, scary, maybe problematic, but still could be incredibly impactful tool, in a way that actually moves the needle. I think there's a lot of folks that are using it, but are they
Getting
seeing
off
like,
on a bunny
is this
trail
actually
and
better, or am I
yeah.
just doing more of something that's not working, right? So I think, at least for the communities that I'm in, the companies that I speak to, my own experience, some of the advisory work I'm doing, is it's a incredibly um, multi-dimensional set of challenges and opportunities happening right now, which is exciting. And this is going back to what we were saying earlier. If you find yourself in a role right now, pick something and lean in and go try it. Just say yes, like, I'm going to learn this AI thing. Maybe pick one tool and just learn it and test it in something. If you're looking at external factors, if I've got my SMB customers or my enterprise customers, suddenly the deal times take longer, or the ACV is lower than it was, or the churn is higher, spend some time, do a little bit extra, dig in, talk to people, and insight. So the only way we're going to get through this sort of internal external chaos and moment in time is by leaning in and trying to understand it little bits at a time. Don't try to eat the whole elephant at once, but look for the impact. It's
Which
easy
whoever
to get.
came up with that term, who's eating elephants and where
I
and
don't know.
what do they taste like? Who
Right,
knows?
exactly. They taste gray, probably, maybe
That's
like fruit
great.
leather, but not, I don't know. um, yeah, I think that the what I said though early on is, it's don't the tool is there for you to leverage to drive results, not the tool for the tool's sake. And so, if you're using AI, or you're using, maybe it's a new, oh, hey, connect all your marketing tools together, MarTech stack. Doesn't matter what it is. If you keep in mind, what is the problem I'm trying to solve, and how is this a tool to help me get there? I see some folks right now getting caught up in it for the fun of it and the novelty of it, but eventually we're going to have to figure out, how is it actually going to move the needle.
I think that was a great point, and we will probably have to do a second podcast interview because we didn't touch on everything. But there is one thing I definitely selfishly is it plays in very well with, of course, what I do in the content world. But you mentioned before we recorded about having a brand, whether you manage it or not, is going to either make or break you.
Mhm.
And also, from what I receive from that, when you say you have a brand, you individually as a person, but also you as a company entity, everyone has a brand, what you do with it. And so, what is it, the positive sides of what you mean by that, and the benefits and the opportunity? And then what are the risks that maybe either marketers, executives are not considering when it comes to understanding that concept?
Yeah. So I like the idea of a brand, and I was fortunate enough to work for Coca-Cola for over 7 years. And when you go there, it's like getting a PhD in brand management, right? They're one of the ultimate brands, and they talk about the emotional connection that you have with your audience and your customers being as important or more important than the actual physical, tangible part of the product. So, if I say a name, I'm not going to, if I would throw out some kind of celebrity name or something, you'd have probably primarily first an emotional reaction to that, positive, negative, or indifferent, right? And then secondarily, your brain would be like, okay, and what is the thing? Like, we like to think we're rational decision makers, but most people are not. We're just human beings. We lead with emotion first. So if you are starting up, or you've had a product out there for a long time, you it benefits you to write it down, to like articulate, the aspects of what you stand for, who you're for, what value you're delivering, not just on a functional level, but on an emotional level. And this matters for B2B brands, and it's harder to do, but if anything, it's more important, because um, those, you really, if you can tap into that emotion of, you made my job easier, you made me look like a hero, I got promoted, whatever that thing may be that you're doing. You made by using your product, I made my customers happier because they have a better experience. Experienced that a lot with both Coca-Cola and Typeform. Um, so the benefits of the positives of it are, if you take just the time, and it doesn't matter what stage you are, whether you're just getting started and have an idea down on paper, if you spend a little bit of time on how you want people to feel when they hear your name, whether that's an individual or company. And it doesn't matter if you just got started or you've been in business for 130 years now. I think Coke's been in business. Like you either decide that and then do your messaging and your product, everything with that in mind, or people will have that reaction on their own. And when you don't try to curate it, or at least, kind of give it some guardrails, it's more likely that it'll go in all these different directions, because as you grow a company, there's different people that represent you along the way, and those people may not get it exactly right. If you present something to them that says, here's who we are, here's who we stand for. When you interact with customers, think about this. Think about how you feel. Um, so that the benefits are all of that. And I think the risks are, in today's world, it's a lot harder because customers and feedback can come at you from so many directions. Social media, they want to have input. They're like, hey, brand X, I didn't like how you did this, and it can turn viral really quickly. So you have to think about how you might respond, be a little bit more proactive. Like, what are our stands on certain things? If this goes wrong, what would we do? It takes a little bit more foresight into how you might react or how you respond, because customers will give you that feedback. It used to be like, if we want it, we'll ask. Now we've opened up all the channels. I think it's a great thing as a marketer. One of the other risks, and we talked about this when in the intro, is I've done a lot of partnership work in my career. And now there's this idea of like influencers and what should you do? I'm super conservative when it comes to that kind of thing, because eventually there will be some type of controversy with whoever you're holding hands with marching out into the world. So you just have to be ready for that. Whether that's a good thing, and when they pull you up, they pull you up. But when they maybe have a misstep, you have to be ready.
You could lose $20 billion.
You could,
Not naming any names or any
hypothetically.
Hypothetically, entirely.
So the way to do that and how you can be better about picking those partnerships is, again, writing down, knowing who we stand for. And then it makes it easy to say, do we, like a Coca-Cola, for instance, like the Coca-Cola is like the drink. Let's talk about just the cola first. They have a huge portfolio. It's a recipe, it's secret, whatever. But the real power is in the longevity of the brand is very emotionally based. So they want positive experiences. So if you look at Coca-Cola sponsors soccer teams and race cars and all this stuff, they don't really care about how much Coca-Cola gets sold at those venues. I mean, they do, but they don't. What they're doing is they're creating a positive reinforcement of their brand with a happy experience that you're having in a movie theater or something like that. And all the time, people, when I worked at Coke, would come to me and say, hey, can you sponsor XYZ? It'll give you brand awareness. I'm like, I don't need brand awareness. I need brand connection. It's like buying a battery toy and not putting batteries in it. It's like, I want to get this thing, this sponsorship. The sponsorship was usually the least of the investment. The big investment came in then making it come to life so that people there had that experience. So that's just a little bit of a tangent on partnerships, but
no, and just to pause you on that too, it's such a solid point, because you don't have to be a Coca-Cola. You can be a B2B SaaS or engineer or manufacturing or agency or anything in the B2B world, but understanding giving without expectation and creating that brand experience. There's a lot of different ways you can do that without, most of us don't have Coca-Cola size budgets, but there's ways you can do that from a microscopic level to a massive scale. So
I mean, I've done it with very small budgets or big budgets. I mean, Coke is, people are like, yeah, sure, I'm glad you brought that up. It doesn't, but it makes it easier to put the guardrails around what you should or shouldn't do. It makes it easier to say no to people if they come to you. Whether it's a technical partnership, like, should we even build this integration? Should we go to market together? Should we join our sales? Are the cultures matched? Is this going to work? How do I know? I've put my brand together. I know what I want to stand for in the marketplace. So, brand is definitely like, it's funny that we got to this end of the discussion, but that is, I could talk about that for a long time. But it's people are going to talk about you no matter what. So you might as well at least try to shape it in some way, shape, or form by how you show up and by how you behave. And there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people, but if you know what you stand for, then you can just keep moving on to the people that you are for, that you're building for.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up. And I'm so grateful for you coming in and sharing your wisdom and expertise. And again, the door is always open. There's probably a lot more we could dive into on specifics in another podcast. But all the while, for anyone listening, connections, you never know. Is there anything specific on your end, resources, relationships, connections of any sort that are top of mind for you that you are, looking out for, vendors, you name it, anything whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a student of the market. I'm always trying to keep up on what's new out in the market. Yeah, not anything specific right now, but I would just say for marketers specifically, dive in. Like, this AI stuff is so fun right now, but and let yourself go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but don't lose sight of why and how you're going to use these things. Are they really having an impact on the business versus where you were? Are you just substituting with no change, or is it really helping you move the business forward?
Such a great point. And best way for people to find you, follow you, get into contact with you.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn user, so easy to find. Karrie Sanderson is my profile. Right now, I am enjoying a lovely summer off, and then in the fall, I'll be starting to do some new and fun things. So stay tuned there. But this is the first time
you're launching your podcast too?
No.
Really?
No. I'm gonna let experts like you continue to do that, Connor. So
you got such a great calming presence. You would be amazing for doing like a marketing podcast or marketing leadership podcast.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. If you ever need a substitute host when you're off on vacation, maybe I'll sit in for you or something.
Careful what you wish for, my friend.
There you go. Thank you so much, Connor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you much. Grateful for you sharing your time. And for the rest of you, make sure you go and follow Karrie. We'll put all the links in the description. Share this out so others, share this with another marketer. And Karrie, I forgot to mention this. Stick around for one quick second after I hit end record so it'll render all the way. And much love to you, my friends. Make it great.